Fearless means I'm willing to do something even if I know I might fail, giving yourself the opportunity to try. Being fearless is taking a chance on yourself. When things don't go your way, those what if moments, you'll learn from them. I do think I get imposter syndrome when it comes to comparing myself. I compare myself all the time to other shows, which is a really silly thing to do, but it's also very human and natural. You can be given moments of luck and fate in your life, but if you're not ready to receive those moments, they'll pass you by. You have to work hard and you have to be prepared for when that luck or that fate comes to you. Not everything is going to happen today or tomorrow or in the next week. It might not work out, but it might work out. And sometimes it's if you just keep trying and keep at it, if you really, really believe in it, it will happen. 4 years ago, I was very scared about turning 40. But I'm not anymore. You can't turn back the clock, can you? Like, you are what you are. Prue Leith has been on my podcast. She's 80. I try to look at people that I love who are older and doing brilliant things and be like, yeah, I kind of want that to be me. I've always had dreams and aspirations of what I want to do, and now I'm learning a bit more what it's like to go with the flow.
Today's guest, Jennie Becker, is a powerhouse in the world of events, partnerships, and storytelling. With over 15 years of experience leading major activations for names like the British Fashion Council, WeWork, LTK, and Stella McCartney, Jennie has been behind some of the industry's most iconic moments, from London Fashion Week to the British Fashion Awards. 4 years ago, driven by curiosity and courage, she launched Sliding Doors, an independent podcast that dives into the pivotal, life-altering moments that shape who we become. Since then, it's become an award-winning success, featured by Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and selected as the Daily Mail's best podcast pick. It's broken into the top 30 podcast charts, and last year won Best Lifestyle Podcast at the Independent Podcast Awards. In today's conversation, Jennie shares her courageous journey from corporate director to award-winning podcast host. So get ready to be inspired to trust your timing, embrace your pivots, and say yes to the unknown. Because as Jennie shows us, the doors that matter most are often the ones we never plan to walk through. Welcome to Women in the Penthouse, where we share the limitations, celebrate resilience, and prove that transformation knows no age. Join me as we dive into raw, inspiring conversations with incredible women who've rewritten their own stories, and maybe ignite the courage within you to do the same. If these stories resonate with you, please subscribe and follow us on social media. Your support doesn't just boost our podcast, it amplifies the voices of incredible women and creates a ripple effect of inspiration. Together, we are building a community that transforms lives, one conversation at a time. So Jennie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to chat to you today. I've been very excited for this conversation.
First of all, congratulations for all the achievement for the Sliding Doors podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, tell us, I think you get a lot of award for that.
Last year, I won the Best Lifestyle Podcast at the Independent Podcast Awards. And I'd been running at the time, my podcast, for just under 4 years. So it's quite a long time, but also I still feel like I'm quite at the beginning of my journey. And the night to me is still one of the best nights ever because I just was in such shock of winning the award. And I think even if one person thinks that you're deserving of an award, it's just such a lovely feeling. But yeah, it was a brilliant night, and it's something that I'm still very proud of.
Yeah, I saw the pictures on Instagram. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
And honestly, I didn't know the show until recently. And I think like many people, I was instantly intrigued by the name. I'm the old generation, so yes, I know the movie.
Exactly.
And also myself, I'm always interested in the possibilities of life. Mm-hmm. So I think it's so interesting. But because of our talk, so I started to listen to your podcast, and you made it so interesting. Because when I was thinking about, of course, you were talking about the big transformational moment and the life choices. Then I was like, oh, the content, you need to talk 1 hour. But then I realized you put so many content into it, like the personality and all the big moment and even the small moment of life is so interesting.
Yes.
I'm just feeling like reading a little memoir of that person.
Good.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I want people to feel. And a lot of my guests say after we've had our chat that they feel like they've had a therapy session, which I take as a compliment because, you know, it's not often that we get to sit back and reflect on our life in a bit of a different way than usual. And I think that's what I'm trying to do is bring someone's story and experience and career to life through a unique way of telling it.
Yeah. I think most importantly, I can see the genuine passion of you for people.
Yes.
So that's why you probe in on a lot of interesting points
Yeah,
of their life.
Definitely.
So let's start from there. So starting from the very beginning, I think.
Yes.
So were you always a curious child, also always passionate about people?
I don't know, really. I think I was always a very creative person when I was younger. I mean, I think my mum said I was a chatterbox when I was little. So I definitely loved to talk. And, you know, I really enjoyed maths at school. I was really good with numbers, but I also loved being creative. So... And fashion was always really interesting to me. But I think I have always been a people person. I love listening to people's stories. And, you know, as I've got older, I was searching for so long for a way to kind of bring that form of connection that I love to light. And I think sometimes it's very hard in your job to feel connection to people all the time.
Yeah.
And actually the podcast was a really big, not life-saving, but life-changing moment for me because it's a way that I get to connect with people that's really intimate, but also it just feels like, I don't know, it's very unique to be able to sit with somebody and really hear their story and ask them questions. And I've always been fascinated with the sliding doors theory and the what if angle, but I didn't really realize how obsessed I was until I started the podcast. And I've learned so much and gained so much education and knowledge and inspiration from my guests. That's what I love. The more I do the show and the more I get to kind of connect with people, the more I realize I've learned. So I feel like I've got more knowledge to kind of be able to dig deeper. So in a roundabout way, the question that you asked me, yes, I have always been a people person. I've always loved being with my friends and kind of connecting with people.
You mentioned you are very creative, but also good at mathematics when you were a little kid.
Yes.
Yeah. So you don't have a preference?
I was really good at maths and I was in the top set at maths, but art and the creatives was always the angle that I wanted to go down, and fashion especially. And I remember my school wanted me to do architecture because it kind of married the two together. And I went to quite an academic school, but fashion was just always where my heart was. And actually my first job in fashion was a merchandiser, which is a very numbers-based position because you're allocating stock. I worked for Kurt Geiger, and I realized after doing that job for a year and a half that I needed to be more creative. And as much as I think for maths, I love the logical side of it. I love there being an answer. You know, even I guess with science there is as well, but with maths, I loved the critical thinking and the way that you had to logically find the answer. And then when you did, there was that satisfaction. But
that's reflected in your show, I think.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
But I do think that the creative side of me just was a lot more out there than the mathematical side.
Interesting. And you study fashion actually in university.
Yes.
And fashion was your first job.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So I studied fashion and business in Birmingham, and you get to kind of do all the different types of fashion when you're at university, which is great because you get to learn about buying, merchandising, visual merchandising, all the different aspects. But I'd always loved planning events. I think I really wanted to be a fashion show producer, actually.
Fashion show producer.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of marry doing events, but in fashion.
Yes.
And I ended up, working in fashion for about 10 years of my career. So I started off at Kurt Geiger as a merchandiser, and then I got my dream job at the British Fashion Council. So I started off in sponsorship, which I learned so much. I mean, I went from being someone that dreamt about being at London Fashion Week to being at every London Fashion Week for 5 years.
Wow.
And I got to work with all the brands and the sponsors there. But then after about 2.5 years, I got to become event manager at the British Fashion Council, and I organised the British Fashion Awards. And that to me was just the dream, the absolute dream. I absolutely loved it. And moved to another company and did fashion there for a little bit, worked at Stella McCartney for a little bit. So yeah, fashion was always just a really brilliant industry. I think I only kind of moved out of it because I felt like I'd done what I wanted to do. And I kind of now just like looking at fashion as opposed to working in it.
Oh, okay. It's like when you say it's like stop growing. Can I say that?
Yeah, I also just think, sometimes when you've kind of achieved a dream in a sector that you're working in, you kind of want to try something new. And I love events. So I've stayed in events in my career, but I just kind of moved from fashion more into kind
That's
of...
a big pivotal like change.
Exactly.
Yeah. But before move to the event part, I'm curious, what is one biggest misperception people hold for fashion industry?
I mean, I've had so many different experiences. I've had really bad experiences and really good experiences. I think the misconception is that all companies that work in fashion are like Devil Wears Prada and are terrible to work for. In my experience, I've only ever worked for one company that's been like that. Most of the companies that I've worked for have had a really brilliant culture. I've met incredible friends, incredible people. And I think nowadays, especially, culture is becoming more important in the fashion industry. It's very hard though, because it's an industry where there's always people that want a job. So it's very hard to stay loyal and kind of stay in a job very long, because, you can be replaced within a second. So I do think it's a really hard industry to get into. But I do think that there's hopefully out there more kind of better companies to work for than the Devil Wears Prada types.
That's so meaningful. I think really a lot of people, young girls, they hold this dream to work for fashion. We are so brainwashed by the whole movie.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that kind of thing is intimidating.
Yeah,
right?
and listen, I think there are still places like that, but I do think that you can find the right brand that kind of works for you.
And actually, sometimes our perception project the reality.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
Exactly.
So it's good, like you pointed out.
Yeah, totally.
Then let's talk about events. You worked in event manager, event director for a long time.
Yeah, so events has always kind of been in my blood. My mum works in the music industry. She organises music tours and has done ever since I was little, for people like Michael Jackson, Oasis, the Rolling Stones. So I've always loved the events and organisational part of stuff. And after I got the event manager role at the British Fashion Council, I just realised that was where my soul lied. And I worked for
What's the most exciting part of this job?
I think for me, I love kind of creating that concept at the beginning and then seeing it come to fruition. So, I mean, I still love the adrenaline of an event day, although it's crazy and you're running around for hours and hours.
I got that. Yeah, I had
brilliant.
That
it's so great. And I love that. I used to say that I often get like a vision. So I'll always it'll take me a while sometimes to figure out how I want an event to be. But when I get it, it all falls into place. I have always found it very hard though at the end of an event. I always get quite down after an event's finished, even in the evening, if it's an evening event. I think the adrenaline is just a lot for me, and often I just need to have quiet time. Sometimes people are like, let's go out, let's party, let's celebrate our success. I've always wanted to just take a chill, have a breather, and kind of take it all in, because it's hard. It's a really hard job to do. I think until you've planned an event, you don't realize how many components go into it. I really thrive off when I've worked on something from the very beginning and kind of seeing it finish at the end.
That's great. Yeah, I totally get that, because I used to work for alcohol, like a cognac, like the top cognacs. We have a lot like a gala dinner, like a millionaire fair, that kind of. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like you prepared everything, you look forward to the big moment.
Yeah.
But after that is the interesting part. I think it's just like celebrity. It's always on the stage and off the stage.
Yeah, exactly. And, as well as an event can go, if someone hasn't liked something, I will hear about it. So if someone doesn't like the chicken that they've eaten, or the candle wasn't lit in the bathroom or something.
Details.
You just get all of sometimes the stuff that went wrong, and it's hard, and you've got to just take everything on the chin. And the more experience you have doing events, the more I think you can manage your own kind of thick skin, if that makes sense. So I just learned that you just can't take people's criticism to heart, because not everyone's going to love everything. But as long as you feel like you've done the best you can do and it's gone as best you can, that to me is the most important thing. And achieving your objectives. Like a lot of the events that I do are quite strategic. So they have objectives to hit, like we're doing them for a reason, and we will, measure results. We want a return on investment. So as long as you're kind of hitting that, you can't please everybody.
Yeah, you work for WeWork for a long time.
Yes, I worked for WeWork for 5 years.
Yeah, and then you have the pivotal moment. You kind of got off the corporate system.
Yes.
Right? That's a big shift.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a full-time job since I started working, which was nearly 16 years ago. And I never ever wanted to go freelance or run my own consultancy, but it just kind of felt like it was the right time to do it. And I never thought I would feel like that. And what's been interesting for me is I started the podcast while I was still at WeWork. So probably about 2 years into my career at WeWork. And what's been incredible is that having that alongside me when I'm having this pivotal moment has been just incredible, because it's really hard to take that leap and get out of the corporate setting. But having my podcast kind of by my side to keep me going, to keep my confidence up, has been amazing, because it's really hard. I'm still in my kind of first year of being a consultant, and I've had really brilliant projects. I've had things say they're going to happen and then they don't happen, and it's hard to earn money every month. But I think because I've got my podcast, I feel like my podcast is like my companion, because it feeds my soul and it keeps me really happy. And I've said this before, when I started my podcast, it made me so much better at my job. It made me a better friend, made me a better daughter, sister. I just became a happier person because I found something that really fed my soul. So I think that's been a really essential part to my journey of kind of, as you say, that big pivotal moment of shifting out of the corporate world. And I think you sometimes just get a bit tired of always doing something under someone else's opinions. And when you work for a company for so long, it's a roller coaster, and it kind of always comes back around the same way. And when you've done that quite a few times, I think sometimes you're just ready to be a bit more in control of what that roller coaster feels like.
I think it's because I work for corporate for a long time. I have that big transition moment, get out of the corporate. When I look back, it's completely different, and I'm so happy. It's not, I'm saying the corporate life is not good. I think everyone has their own path. All the experience shape the current version of ourselves, right? But still, I think, like you said, in corporate, you don't have your own. Most of the time, you don't have your own voice. I completely understand, like, when you have the podcast, it's like, it's something really your purpose. Can I say that?
Definitely,
it's really meaningful.
And I'm in control of it. And I think, I used to put a lot of pressure on my job to make me really happy. I've always been very driven in my career. I've known what I've wanted to do in the next stage of my career every single time. And I think I always put such an emphasis on that my job, is what should make me happy in life. And you can't do that because, unless, it might be different if you're an entrepreneur, for example, but when you're working for somebody else, you just don't have that control. Like, you work as hard as you can and you might have autonomy. I had a lot of autonomy at WeWork, which was brilliant, but essentially I just put too much pressure on my job being the sole thing that made me happy because I enjoyed it so much. And when I took that pressure off and, did the podcast that I was fully in control in, like if I release an episode one week, if I didn't, no one else is going to care. It's the pressure that I put on myself. But I really thrived off that, and it actually made me take a lot of pressure off myself in a work perspective and not come home every night and think about everything that's happened in the office that day and overthink situations and worry about my team and get overly emotional about my job. I'd come home and work on the podcast, which meant that I still did the best job I could do when I was in the office, but I didn't let it take over my life as much anymore. And I think that's really important when you can find a purpose outside of your job. That's kind of how it really helped me.
It's brilliant. I think we all hope ultimately we can find something both like nourishing our soul and making money.
Definitely.
But it's like
very hard.
At least at a certain period of life phase, I think it's very challenging. So like what you said, it's really a good transition, I think, for that.
Yeah. And like I've always said that with my podcast, I mean, the amount of work I put into it, I should be a millionaire.
One of my guests, she said, we are all not perfect. If we are perfect, we are not here.
Yeah.
This is an earth school, right?
And everybody goes to
we
the
learn
toilet.
from every case, every person we meet.
Everyone goes to the toilet, everyone brushes their teeth, everyone does the same things. And I think that's one thing that, because some of the guests that I interview, I ask them about their experiences with celebrities, and they get nervous and they worry that they're massive, big stars and they're not. And we always say, but you're only human and they're only human. And when you meet someone in person or you get to interview them, you realize they're normal.
If this episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit the subscribe button, share it with a woman who needs to hear it, and join us on social media to keep the conversation going. Your support fuels this community, amplifies these stories, and helps us inspire even more women to rise to their potential.
If I got paid for the amount of work I put in, I'd be a millionaire right now on a beach somewhere. But I don't know if I'd ever want my podcast to be my sole income, because it's too much pressure. At the moment, I do it for the pure love of it. And it does make some money. And, you know, I want it to get bigger and better, and it's growing all the time, which is brilliant. And I'd kind of love it to be a 50-50 with a job and my podcast. I've never wanted to feel the pressure with the podcast. I've always wanted to do it purely for the love of it. Because I think that's, you know, I've been doing it for 4.5 years. And I feel like in the podcast industry, you've got to have love and authenticity when you do a show, because it's not a quick sell. It takes a long time to build an audience. If you don't have a big production company behind you, or Apple Podcasts or iHeart, it takes a long time to grow your audience, and it takes a long time to find your groove and find what you really want with the show. You've just got to stick at it. So I think for me, that's been a really important part, is because I never gave myself the pressure at the very beginning to be like, this is what I want to do and I want to make money from it. Hopefully I will make more money from it and I can do that more and more. But I never put that pressure on myself. That's brilliant.
It's all about expectation, right?
Exactly, expectation.
Like you don't set a high, it's purely for your soul.
Yeah.
Nourish yourself. It's
definitely
beautiful. So now let's talk about the show.
Yes.
I know you have a fascinating story how you started.
Yes.
So tell our audience how you created this brilliant concept.
Well, I mean, I can't take credit for the sliding doors concept because that was taken a long time ago. But so I was about 11 years old, probably a little bit too young. And I used to go to the video store on a Saturday night when you used to have VHSs and watch videos with your friends on a Saturday night. And I always used to get sliding doors. And I was fascinated by the concept of when Gwyneth Paltrow missed the train and then got on the train. And the film splits into two, and it's kind of her life showing how one moment changed everything for her. And I was just so fascinated by the concept always. I've always really loved the phrase, everything happens for a reason. And I've loved the film Back to the Future when, you know, again, like one small moment can change the whole future of something. And when I was searching for my purpose, so kind of while I was at my job at WeWork and really trying to find something that connected me more with people and got me doing something that I loved, I tried to think of what I could do. And I originally proposed to do a podcast for WeWork, but it kind of would have been too difficult and too hard to get kind of through the machine. And then my boss suggested, why don't you start your own podcast? And I was like, no way, no one knows who I am. Why would I start it? And then probably about a month later, I was sat with my sister on my couch in my living room. And I was like, if I did start a podcast, what would I call it? And I was like, everything happens for a reason. Brilliant. And I looked and there were like 100 podcasts called Everything Happens for a Reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was like, well, why do I love that phrase? And then I saw Sliding Doors, and there are about 3 podcasts, but no one that was really doing it in a way that I thought I could. And it just at that moment felt right. And I got an Instagram handle, Sliding Doors Pod. And then I said to myself, I'm going to ask 5 people I know if they want to come on the podcast. And if they say yes, I'm doing it. And they all said yes. So I was like, I've got to do it. And that's how it started. And it's been an incredible journey because it's a topic that everybody knows the term sliding doors moment, whether they've seen the film or haven't seen the film.
Yeah.
And I'm sometimes just quite shocked that no one started it before I did. Because again, it's such a topic that people love thinking about, those what if moments in your life. And yeah, and that was 4.5 years ago. And here I am, I've released my 120th episode today. So
wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah. How amazing. Like you said, like sometimes we always think our idea may not be unique, or maybe somebody else already do it. But when you try to search, nobody's doing it actually.
Exactly. And also I'm someone that I like to do something well if I do it. Yeah. And I think I always got very scared that no one knows who I am, so why would they listen? But as time's gone on, I think I've definitely changed that thought path. And especially in the past year, I've realized that the podcast for me used to definitely be about my guests, and it's just about my guest stories and what my guests are and if they're a big name and da 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 da. And I've realized over the past year that I'm very much a part of that. You know, the way I interview, the way I talk to them, me being the person on, you know, who presents the show is a part of the show. And it's taken me a long time to realize that and get the confidence to say that. So I think that's also very hard when you want to start a podcast, because if you've got nothing behind you, giving you the money or promoting you or even working with you on it, it's very, very hard to have that confidence. So I just want people to know that it doesn't come very quickly. Like, it does take time.
Yeah.
But it's something that definitely, if it's what you're passionate about, you can build on and grow.
Yeah, I think we already touched a bit about our next topic.
Yeah.
You know, in Women in the Penthouse, we have 3 keywords, which is fearless, limitless, and ageless.
Yes.
So I think how you create this podcast, and now I see the passion. 4 years later, you still have so much passion about it. And I know how it has impacted a lot of people's life. It's really one of a brilliant example of fearlessness. But I was still starting with the question I always ask every guest.
Yes.
How do you define fearless personally?
I think for me, fearless is, I think we all have fear. I think we're all going to have fear. I think it's important to sometimes have fear, but it's you need to have the right type of fear. So for me, I think fearless means that I'm willing to do something even if I know I might fail. So it's knowing that I'll take that chance, I'll take the opportunity, even if it doesn't go the way I thought it would, even if I fall flat on my face, even if it goes really, really well, you just don't know. And I think for me, that's what fearless means, is giving yourself the opportunity to try and see if it will happen. Because I've listened to so many people's moments and stories where things have worked out brilliantly or things haven't worked out well, but when they don't work out well, they lead you somewhere else. So I think for me, being fearless is, it's taking a chance on yourself.
Oh, that's mom. Taking a chance on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned, so at the beginning, you do have your doubts.
Oh my gosh, yeah. If I think about how I used to be before I interviewed people compared to now, oh my gosh, I'd have to take like 2 hours before. I had a playlist I'd listen to. I'd be listening to my notes. I'd be doing breathing exercises. I'd get myself so nervous about it. And it's funny because I don't think I reflect enough back on how I was to how I am now. And I think for me, I still get really nervous before I interview somebody, and I still worry that I'm not going to know what to say or will it go well. But then I'm like, but most of the time it has gone well. So you will be fine. And I'm also, but if you do forget something or say something wrong, it's absolutely fine. We're all human. Yeah. And I think for me, that's where being fearless comes in, is I'm not afraid to do something wrong, or because I know I'll always learn from it. And a lot of people on the show always say it's, when things don't go your way, those what if moments, you'll learn from them. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Do you think because we interview a lot of like big names now, right? Do you think you might have imposter syndrome?
Well, I've interviewed quite a lot of interviewers, so people that interview other people. And I think they're the ones I'm always most scared of, because I think that they're so good at asking questions and kind of making interviews really interesting. I really don't think when it comes to sliding doors, I do get imposter syndrome. I think I sometimes do when it comes to the rejection that I get a lot. Like if I'm asking all these guests to come on and they say no, I'm always like, well, I'm not good enough. I'm not a big enough name. Maybe they don't like my show. But I think with interviewing, for some reason, it just is my happy place and I love it. And I try really hard to make myself and my guests feel as comfortable as possible so that I can enjoy it. I do think I get imposter syndrome when it comes to comparing myself. I compare myself all the time to other shows, which is a really silly thing to do, but it's also very human and natural to do that. I think with the podcast, I'm not professing to be the best interviewer in the world. I'm, someone that I always say I'm just so intrigued by sliding doors moments. So I feel like I'm starting to kind of believe more of who I am and why I'm doing it.
That's so beautiful. You mentioned one thing I think very important. We're all human.
Yes.
like before, we naturally think somebody big name, like it's intimidating,
Yeah.
right? Interviewing them. But I think the thing is, we are all human. Like one of my guests, she said, we are all not perfect. If we are perfect, we are not here.
Yeah.
This is an Earth school, right?
And everybody goes
so
to
we
the
learn
toilet.
from every case,
Yeah.
every person we meet.
Everyone goes to the toilet, everyone brushes their teeth, everyone does the same things. And I think that's one thing that, because some of the guests that I interview, I ask them about their experiences with celebrities, and they get nervous and they worry that they're massive, big stars and they're not. And we always say, but you're only human and they're only human. And when you meet someone in person or you get to interview them, you realize they're normal, or they're just a normal person like you and me are. And I think that's been really important for me. I obviously get nervous with certain people if they're people that I've followed all my life and I'm a massive fan of. But yeah, ultimately you do just have to remember that everyone's human. And I think that's a really important way to kind of be in life.
If some young woman, they're still holding back by like the fear or self-doubt, what will you say to maybe one advice to?
I think practice is everything. I think I'm one of those weird people that loves public speaking, and I love interviewing people and being on a stage. I get nervous, but it's where I feel really comfortable. But I know a lot of people hate that. A lot of people get very nervous before interviewing or want to talk to somebody and get scared. I think, again, you've got to remember that everyone's human and that, you know, everybody gets worried and scared, but ultimately it's all experience. The more you do something, the better you'll feel, the more comfortable you'll feel. It won't go great every time. Sometimes I obviously have to listen back to my podcast 10 times over, and half the time I've spoken too quickly or I don't like how I've said something, but then I try and get better the next time. And I think that's it for me, is if it's something that you're really passionate about, just keep practicing, get as much experience, whether it's going to talk to someone at a networking event and you're really nervous to speak to them. Try doing it with someone that you're not that nervous to speak to and just get used to it. It's like experience of that communication angle. But yeah, I think experience is the biggest thing for me.
Exactly. Yesterday I was here interviewing Tina Gray. She is a renowned therapist. And exactly we're talking about that experience so important because the brain like familiar things.
Yes.
So if you never do the thing you want to do, the brain will never get familiar with it.
Yeah,
it's always like you do the first time, you do the second time, then repeat and repeat. Right? So then naturally you will someday you find you are in a new world. Like maybe a new level, new identity, new circle. But the very first step is the most important. Experience.
100%. And again, not being afraid to fail and get it wrong.
And another thing, I think you mentioned in the interview, it's very interesting. I completely agree. Is about we make this content, this idea unique. Because a lot of people think, back to, I think we discussed earlier, someone may think, oh, my idea is not that fresh or not that unique. Then we naturally have this doubt, maybe we should not launch it. But it is you. Like make it unique.
Definitely. And I think one thing that I've always been told and know about podcasting is there's probably so many podcasts with the same name out there. Like, you know, that's the beauty of podcasting. Anyone can start a podcast. But what makes a podcast unique is your name and is you and is the way that you interview somebody. Somebody could do sliding doors exactly the same way I do. Please don't do that, because I hope nobody does. But it won't be the same as my show, because the format would be the same, but the way someone interviews wouldn't be the same because they're not me. Same with you. If somebody did your show, you know, and I think that you have to, I think that's why it's so important that if you are wanting to start something, it has to feel really authentic to what you're passionate about, because you'll get found out very quickly from your audience if it's not. And that passion and authenticity is what will make you stand out to everyone else.
And it's something I realized recently. I think at the end of the day, what we deliver are the same. The core, the basic for all the, I think, content is love. And like those inspiring, like our individual growth, kind of like our heroic journey, right? Per individually. So there's nothing new. like hundreds,
exactly. No
thousands
one's
years
breaking
ago.
ground.
Yeah,
And it's
even
like,
all the spiritual teaching, like everybody is teaching the same. It's just we are kind of the medium to bring something personal. That's why I think every creator are doing the content creation, right?
Definitely. And also, I think people need to realize that when it comes to podcasting specifically, often podcasts are a really good way to be an extension of something else that you're doing. So if you have a brand or if you have a publication or something, your podcast can be an arm of that. So it can be a way for people to get to know you better. It doesn't have to be the main event all the time. It can be, it can be a medium of what you're doing. And I think that's what's really important is that if you're a founder or you have a brand, the reason why you'd start a podcast is because people want to get to know you better. And it's a brilliant way to do that. So I think also it's realizing that podcasts don't have to be, the Stephen Bartletts and Diary of a CEOs of the world. They can just be a really brilliant marketing extension of what you're already doing.
That's also back to, you mentioned the comparison thing.
Yeah.
We always compare ourselves to the top one. But I mentioned in the podcast, we all have different stage of career or project.
Yeah.
Like you have the formation stage, you have the expansion stage, and finally the consolidation stage. The thing is, you cannot compare your first stage to someone who has already like done it for 10 years, like 20 years.
Of course.
Yeah.
Totally true.
Yeah, especially for a lot of hyperachievers, I think, who is listening. Maybe when we think about someone, oh, he's so good, then we just cannot take that very first step.
Yeah,
right?
And also everyone's different. Everyone's unique. And I think you've got to be very clear on what your goals are of why you want to do what you're doing. And I think if you're you might not be, your goals might be very different to someone else's. Someone might be doing it to make millions of pounds.
Yeah.
Other people might be doing it literally just to inspire people. So if you're inspired, I always said, if 5 people are listening and get inspired, that's my goal. That's my
Wonderful.
goal ticked. I'd love it to be more, but ultimately I want to inspire people and I'm doing that. So I think if you're clear on your goals, what I'm trying to do is set those goals out so then I'm not disappointed in, as you say, comparing yourself to someone that's in a totally different situation, circumstance and experience point in their lives to me. And that's really important.
That's brilliant. Let's go back to the sliding door moments.
Yes.
The fascinating stories.
Yeah.
So we talk about fearless, right? What's the best example you think maybe from your guest about being fearless in life, those big life transitions?
I mean, I've had so many different types of moments. I've had a lot of life-saving moments where people's lives have they've saved their lives by a sliding doors moment happening. I've had lots of life-changing moments, lots of moments of, risk-taking. I think that's also kind of being quite fearless. A lot of people talk about, taking an opportunity, whether it's in their career or a job, and just deciding to do something just to do it, and then it being literally the start of their whole career. But I think the ones that I love best are the love stories when it comes to being fearless, because I think there's been a few stories where people have not wanted to go on a blind date or, not wanted to go out one night. Or actually there's an amazing story that someone did where she met someone in a pub and she got dragged to leave early by her friend. And she decided as they were walking off that she really liked this guy. So she ran back and gave him her number. She was like, I've never given a guy number in my life. And she's now married to him and has been married to him for a long time. They've got children together. Those are the moments where being fearless counts, because if she hadn't have gone back to him, she never would have seen him again. And she made that move. Usually the guy gives you the number, but she decided she's going to go and do that. And I think those are the moments that I love so much. And also with career, I think there's been times when there's been opportunities that have arisen where people could be really scared to take them. And they've kind of been like, you know what, I'm going to try because you never know. And it's literally been the start of their whole career. So I think there's definitely been a lot of fearless moments and a lot of risk taking. And when people get to reflect back, I think they've realised what a lesson that they have learned, because it's made them be more fearless as their lives and experience has progressed.
That's really interesting. Yeah. It's always courage is we have the map of conscious. I love this series. It's by David Hawkins.
Yes.
Like there's the map from, for the first time, he ranked human emotions with energy frequency.
Yeah.
So the lowest is shame. 20, the highest is enlightenment, which is 1,000. But just one thing standing in between is the shift from negative to positive is courage.
Yeah, definitely.
So back to the story, like you said, if she didn't just ask the guy for the number, so it just completely different story, right? So
Definitely.
it's always courage change everything.
Yeah, of course.
So the sliding door is the parallel reality.
Yes.
So you're a big believer of that.
I think what's interesting is that I'm very open to the concept. I think that I always ask my guests what their beliefs are in the sliding doors theory. So the idea of fate, parallel lives, coincidence, luck, timing. And every guest, even if they say kind of a similar concept, always says it in a different way. And I think for me, the thing that I've realized that I believe in is that you can be given moments of luck and fate in your life, but if you're not ready to receive those moments, they'll pass you by. So you have to work hard and you have to be prepared for when that luck or that fate comes to you in order to grasp it, like your dream job or the love of your life. You know, you've got to work hard for these moments. I mean, there are some moments that are just total moments of fate, which I can't explain, where, you know, I had someone where it was a 1 in a 22 million chance of someone finding a match to be a kidney donor, and they randomly bumped into each other on a beach and found out that they were a match, and that you just cannot explain. And I had one on this week that was someone nearly got struck by lightning. It was Simon Thomas. He was sat on a tree and his mum kept telling him to move, and she kept saying it. She said it 3 times. On the 3rd time he was like, okay, I'm going to move. There was no rational reason for him to move, but she kept saying it. And about 2 minutes later, the tree got struck by lightning and he would have died. Yeah. So there's moments like that you just can't, how do you prepare for that? You know, that's got nothing to do with preparation. But I think when it comes to moments when it's to do with love and career and experiences in your life, I think you have to be someone that's open to receiving fate. But there are loads of people that believe in parallel lives and believe in, we're not just living one life, we're living the multiverse and all of that stuff. And it's fascinating. And some people love delving into the what ifs and kind of thinking, okay, if I didn't do that, where would I be now? Some people really don't like doing that because they feel like I don't want to be regretful and I don't know what I do.
Yeah.
But even so, like, I was speaking to someone recently on the show, and sometimes if the moment was you got rejected to get into medical school, if you'd have got accepted to get into medical school, that doesn't mean that you'd have stayed in medical school and then become a doctor.
Yeah.
You may have quit halfway through. You know, there's never one what if answer. There's then millions of what if answers that could be there. So it's just having...
Because the what if is the imagination.
Exactly.
And we always imagine the best part of something we didn't do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And the reason why I love doing it is because I love connecting the dots of what has happened so that we can have more faith in what happens in the future, whether it's good or bad. I think knowing how sliding doors moments have come into your life previously, being aware of that is really good, because I think then it means that when you're presented with future things and opportunities and, you know, good moments, bad moments, you can draw on those experiences and hopefully have faith that it will all work out in the end.
Yeah. And also you mentioned one thing, intuition.
Yeah.
That's so powerful. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I can't explain intuition, and I think it's such a hard thing, but we talk a lot about gut feelings. And I had Dr. Megan Rossi, who is a gut health doctor, and I asked her, I was like, is there scientifically a correlation between the gut and the mind? And she was like, 100%, you know, the subconscious in your mind, and that kind of links to your gut and how that's feeling. But yeah, we can't explain a gut feeling, but yes, we do have intuition when it comes to things. And I think a lot of people follow their intuition. A lot of people don't, but then realize that they should have. And either way, you've got to have a bit of confidence sometimes to know that, as you say, you're never going to know the path that you didn't travel down, but you've got to be confident that the one that you're on for a reason.
Yeah. You mentioned something like some people don't like the what if question.
Yeah.
I think it's valid because I really love the one word wake. It's like Wayne Dyer, he mentioned all the past is like wake. A wake is like the flow after the boat, like the water flow. So the wake cannot drive the boat. So it's like the past cannot drive the future.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant. So I think for the past, it's like we don't regret.
Yeah.
Like we learn from that
Exactly.
experience. Also, some people say about the parallel reality, I think multi-universe is like different frequency, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can spend hours thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's even like, but also then it's like the butterfly effect of how one thing that you do, I always think about this. If someone talks about the fact that they've rejected their dream job, when they reject that job, someone else then gets the opportunity to get it. So their decision and their actions has then meant that someone else's sliding doors moment has happened. So there's also that whole other angle of how your actions, a lot of people talk about someone giving them advice or telling them to do something and other people being a big part of their sliding doors moment. And again, it's that act of kindness.
Because we're all connected.
Yeah. And how your act of kindness one day could literally change something for somebody. Like, you have no idea. So you could think about it for ages.
Yeah, it's really, I think fundamentally we're all connected, and it's the ripple effect.
Exactly.
Like Louise Hay said, she said like every person can contribute to world chaos and world peace just at this moment.
Yeah.
Because your energy really affect your environment and the person you talk in the coffee shop, in the restaurant, on the street, right? And that person can talk to the family and bring the positive or negative energy.
Definitely.
So it's literally you are impact the whole world.
Yeah, of course.
And there's another thing I felt fascinating about the sliding door is the real sliding door moment.
Yeah.
Like it's now of course we talk about the big transition, big life moment. But think about the small one, like you did miss a bus, maybe, or miss a train. Mm-hmm. You are literally staying with, surrounded by completely different people.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, and you never know what's going to happen. And
we have an old Chinese saying, like, it takes 100 years for two people in the same boat to be in the same boat. And it takes 1,000 years for two people to be in the same bed. Meaning a relationship, your spouse. And so think about that. It really will give you more compassion or more connection to other people. Like sometimes, for example, I miss a bus. I was like, oh, well, it's interesting. I meet completely different people right around me.
Yeah.
So I try to capture the beautiful moment.
Exactly. Rather than getting angry and being like, oh God, I missed my bus. It's like, well, okay, well, I missed the bus. It's that theory of like, do you run to catch the tube if the tube's coming into the station, or do you just walk and see if you're going to catch it? Like, and it's an interesting way to look at stuff, because you're right. There are these big flashy sliding doors moments that are just these incredible moments of fate that you can't get your head around. Then there's everyday things, like little things that can happen in your life that can take you down a totally different path. And I think it's having appreciation for both. Yeah. And you're right. Sometimes, I think if I'd had left 5 minutes early, would something have changed? But you don't know, and you can't live your life always thinking that. But what you can do is if that you do have a day where you miss the bus, something in your day, I mean, sometimes you do just have really bad days, but something in your day has to have happened because you missed the bus that feels like it's a good thing. And I think it's trying to find the joy in those kind of moments that seem to go wrong or don't go your way. Yeah. Of, as you say, something else happening instead. Yes, it's always shift the perspective, right? Totally, find something good. And I'm a big believer, it's all you believe it's good or bad, right? Yeah. And we talk about frequency or vibration can attract the good things. Yeah. So always keep your positive energy in every moment. 100%, because you never know who you're going to meet as well. Yeah, okay, that's fabulous. So we move to the second part. Yes. It's about being limitless. Yeah. So the same, how do you think, what is limitless life? I think for me, I often talk a lot about anything is possible, because I think that if you'd asked me 4.5 years ago, would I have had some of the guests that I've had on my podcast, I would have said, absolutely no way. Like, there's no way I can have them. And I've proven to myself that I can. And that would have been something that I would have found really limiting back then. I would have been like, I just can't do it. Like what's the point in reaching out to somebody because they're just going to say no? And I think for me, I always I do a lot of talks about this as well, is it's not impossible for Gwyneth Paltrow to come on my podcast. It's not impossible for me to get Paul McCartney to come on my podcast. It can physically happen. The probability of it happening is probably very small, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. And I think sometimes we limit ourselves by thinking there's no point in trying because it's not going to happen. And I think the podcast has really helped me be a lot more limitless with knowing that you just never know. You may as well try. So many things, so many really brilliant things have happened out of things that people have said no. I talk a lot about when I get lots of rejection and people say no about coming on the podcast, let's say, I then try and funnel that energy into making something better happen. So if one person says no, I then might reach out to 15 more people to just try and get that good energy back. And then someone might come on the show, and someone who I would never have dreamt of might come on. And I think that's kind of what I've realized is that life is quite limitless when it comes to what you can achieve. I think you just have to be really open, as I said before, to knowing that it may not happen, but it could. So if you weigh up, I've always been someone that likes to be prepared. So I'm always very much like, this is the worst case scenario.
Okay. That's a logical mind.
But I'm trying so much more now to be like, okay, they probably will say no, or this probably won't happen. But if you don't try, it's like you're never going to win the lottery if you don't buy a lottery ticket. And I think a lot of people, as you said earlier, get so scared to even try to do things because they just think it's not going to work. Why would I? I'm not good enough. No one knows who I am. But you just don't know. Like, you have no idea. And things are physically possible in the world to happen. So you may as well just give it a go.
Yeah. And you did a very limitless thing. I think it's the 25th anniversary of the movie.
Exactly. Like, I talk about this story a lot as well because I wanted to do a special sliding doors kind of like documentary podcast series about how the film was made. And I couldn't. The writer and director is a guy called Peter Howitt, who is he was on TV when he was younger. And he just was not contactable anywhere. I couldn't find him I couldn't find an agent for him. He was not on social media. And I knew that he really was the person that I needed to be on board with the idea and to speak to. And I was trailing the internet, and I found this random email address from a woman that was like a Hotmail address who said that she represented him in some certain way. So I sent her an email. Now, logically, I would have probably been like, what's the point? This woman will not know who Peter Howitt is. And I told her my idea. And then next week she said, I've spoken to Peter. He's really happy to chat to you. And then literally this relationship began with Peter where he helped me build the Sliding Doors 25th anniversary documentary series on the podcast. I had Gwyneth Paltrow booked, but she cancelled last minute. So I did still have her booked. But I got to interview the whole cast and crew. I got Stephen Bartlett came on and spoke about his Sliding Doors moment. And then we had a massive event at the Electric Cinema. It was I actually released the docuseries 2 years ago today.
Oh, wow.
And
today?
Today. Wow. And I got all the cast and crew together. And we did a Q&A, and then we all watched the film together at the Electric Cinema in Notting Hill. I would never have believed that would happen. That all happened from that one email address where I very, very easily could have been like, I'm not going to email this person. What's the point? And that really shows that literally anything can happen from one email that you send. I would never have believed that I would have achieved what I did from literally just sending him that email that day.
Yeah, that's such a brilliant example, right? Yeah, everything is possible.
Yeah.
I think Gwyneth Paltrow maybe on your show or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, I still booked her. She may not have been on, but she was in the diary for a couple of months.
Also, from your guests, do you think you can share with us some limitless story? At the end of the day, it's all our limited belief sometime in our childhood. Maybe ingrained in our brain. So we think we cannot do this, cannot do that.
I'm trying to think of a moment specifically. I mean, I think that for a lot of people, it's kind of like being fearless again. It's them knowing where they want to get to in their life and kind of knowing that they're going to fail along the way and things might not go well for them. But it's, I had someone on recently where she wanted to, it was Dr. Megan Rossi, who I mentioned before. She wanted to create this, she had a really brilliant idea for creating a probiotic that wasn't on the market, that she knew would really help people. And I think 11 people said no to her and rejected the idea. And someone said something to her on Instagram that made her try one more time after she decided she was going to give up. And she sent someone, and then she went on LinkedIn, and then someone sent her a message. And anyway, this then ended up being the person that she worked with, and the product's now out there. I've told that story in a very roundabout way, but the idea of that is you failed so many times that your brain is telling you, why keep trying?
Yeah.
And everyone keeps saying no. And then you're like, well, if they say no, no one's going to like it. No one thinks it's good. But she believed in the product. She believed, and she said this. She said, I knew that this product was good and I couldn't not do it. I had to try. And I think that's kind of being limitless sometimes is that you kind of have to believe, like, I believe in that being meant to be. I believe that she was meant to find that. Like the Sliding Doors movie, for example, was rejected for 4 years. He pitched it to all the big people. They all said, you can't do it. It's never going to work. How are you going to do 2 different stories running at the same time? And there was an incredible, this is on the documentary, but there's an incredible moment where they literally went to the pub and they'd given up. And then this massive producer from Hollywood, Sidney Pollack, called them and said he was interested in the film. And then the film got made. That's 4 years they had no's and rejections of people. But they knew in their brains and in their minds that they had to make this film somewhere or another. So again, I think being limitless is also having faith. It's having faith that things will work out. And if you believe in something, I think you've got to just have faith that it will work out somehow.
Yeah. And I think Peter will never imagine like there will be a podcast after a few years.
Yeah, no,
this
he
is
loves.
also another...
I still speak to him every now and again, and I think he just loves the fact that I'm so interested in the sliding doors theory. But I get so many. I have Google alerts that tell me when there's been a sliding doors moment in the press, like the term sliding doors. It's used all the time. Again, like in sports moments, in moments in the press, like every single day. It's a common term that literally came from him deciding to call his film Sliding Doors. It's now a global term that we use, a global phrase. And no other film has really done that. And I think it's an incredible thing. And if I was him, I'd be very, very proud for the fact that I came up with that concept.
Yeah, because we never know something you created could be so, that's literally a good limitless thing. But for yourself, you maybe in daily life, do you sometimes realize, oh, this is maybe a limited belief? Or
all the time. I think all the time I just, you can just think, why would someone do that? Who am I to do that with? Am I good enough? Am I, I think sometimes like my brain limits me, but I try really, really hard to kind of push myself out of that. I think when I'm having a bad day, I just accept that I'm having a negative day and a day where I feel like I can't reach my goals and achieve what I want to. But I think it's also patience. I think patience is really important when it comes to having kind of limitless beliefs, because not everything is going to happen today or tomorrow or in the next week. And I'm very impatient. I just want things to happen now. And I think sometimes it's
That's so real.
Yeah, but I think it's sometimes knowing that if I do have a dream, it might not work out, but it might work out. And sometimes it's if you just keep trying and keep at it, if you really, really believe in it, it will happen. But it may be 5 days, it might be 5 years. You just don't know. So I think that I have faith that things will work out how they're meant to. I just need to be more patient.
That's beautiful. I think it's really the trust, right?
Yeah.
Trust the thing like you're doing. Because back to we discussed the podcast thing, I think so many people really give it up like after 2 years or 3 years.
People give up after 10 episodes.
10 episodes is a milestone.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it is. Like
it's
that's the
so
statistic.
Hard. Yeah. But it's all about you trust it. Like the movie 4 years. Yeah. If you don't mention, nobody knows about it.
I mean, I reckon most really big films or songs or albums or music artists have been given so many no's. And, when I speak to guests that are actresses or actors, we talk about these pivotal moments where they got their big role, but there's been 10 million other times where they've been said no to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's knowing that everybody has those moments of rejection, but rejection can be redirection and kind of get you to somewhere else that you're meant to be.
That's wonderful. If somebody said, starting from today, I want to do something, maybe one action, I can be limitless, what might be your suggestion to her?
I think I'd set yourself kind of 3 separate goals. One, which is the goal that is the pipe dream, that anything is possible, the getting Gwyneth Paltrow on your podcast, the one where it's very unlikely to happen. You want your own TV show, you want to be on the front cover of Vogue magazine, kind of get those really big, amazing, limitless dreams written down, but then have your kind of achievable lists of things that you want to achieve in the next year, but then also what do you want to achieve in the next quarter. And that's how kind of I set things out, so that then, you know, I'm always dreaming big and I'm always in the back of my mind thinking I want to do this and I want to do that. But I also know that there's lots of other things that I also want to do and that are more achievable and could get me to that big goal.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I would say is don't limit your imagination, but be realistic with the things that you can achieve and when you can achieve them.
Do you do a vision board or?
I used to.
Visualize.
I don't anymore. I've done vision boards in the past, and sometimes I like write something that I want to happen and put it on my door and then read it every single day to kind of make it come to life. But I do need to do that more. I feel like I sometimes just get so busy that I just forget to do that stuff. But it's
or
so
the
key.
manifesting stuff like affirmation.
Exactly.
You do journaling.
Yeah. I think I always do every year. I'll sit down and write my goals for the year and what I want to achieve, and then reassess last year's goals. And I don't often look at them throughout the year. And I find it quite interesting then to see what did I actually achieve? Did I go down the path I thought I would? But yes, I need to be better at the visualization and manifestation.
It's okay. We're all on the way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We have to do it.
Exactly.
Okay. So now we talk about the third part, is ageless.
Yes.
Can I have the spoiler? What is your age?
38.
Oh,
yeah.
So you're close to the milestone.
40, yeah.
You know, Carl Jung said, that's one of my favorite quotes. It's before 40, you're just doing the research.
Yeah.
That's after
I love
40.
that.
Yeah, after 40, like real life really started at 40.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any ageless model, or what do you think about ageless?
I think age has always been something that I found quite interesting, because I think my friends got married quite young. They all got married in their mid to late 20s, and I didn't. And so when I hit 30, I was just like, I'm behind everybody. I'm so old and everyone's married and I'm on the shelf and I'm past it. And now I'm like, what on earth were you talking about? Because, I just compared myself to everyone else. And it was only when I got into my early 30s that I just started to really enjoy being 30. And I think ageless to me is really important, because I think that sometimes I get very kind of dragged down by the fact that I'm 38 and I haven't met someone yet and I don't have children. And they're things that I want in my life. It's not that I feel the pressure to do it. I want to find a partner and have a family. But if I sit here and just dwell on the fact that I'm 38 and I don't have that, it scares me and it's not going to do any good.
Yeah.
And I try really hard to just kind of at the moment now forget what age I am. It's very different for women, don't get me wrong. We have, biological clocks, and I wish that wasn't a thing, but it is. But I think when it comes to what can you achieve and do, I think there's so many more women out there in their 40s that are starting their careers in their 40s, achieving great things.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually am not that scared. I think about 4 years ago, I was very scared about turning 40, but I'm not anymore. I don't know why. I just think that, you can't turn back the clock, can you? You are what you are. And I think you've just got to enjoy life. And when I'm 60, I'll look back and think, God, why did I moan when I was 38? I was so young, which is what I did when I was 30. So I'm trying to not do that now. And there's so many women out there, especially I had one of my really good friends, Jo Good, who does the BBC Late Night Show with Joe. She's been on the podcast. She's 70 and she's literally living her best life at the moment, and she talks about age and all of that stuff. And Prue Leith has been on my podcast. She's 80 and she's still doing Great British Bake Off. Like, my perception of 80 was my grandparents when they turned 80.
Yeah.
And I think age is just so different now that I try to look at people that I love who are older and doing brilliant things and be like, yeah, I kind of want that to be me.
I think it's all about the curiosity of life.
Yeah.
Because our spirit, there's no age limit, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I interviewed an artist, she's 73. She said, I just get started. Like,
Yeah.
she literally like started to launch a children's book and a new area. And also I have a friend, he's 82, I think, and
Wow.
he's still like so ambitious,
Yeah.
creating new career opportunities. So yeah, very inspiring. Yeah. So you mentioned a few very brilliant. Maybe give us some more examples, like your guests, how they are finding new sparkles in life. Or
I think, you know, from looking at the people that I've had on, I mean, I've had quite a few older women, especially, that are still going at the age that they are. And I think for me, they've all, Prue Leith has loads of colour in her life and she just kind of goes along. They're all very passionate about what they do. And I think passion is probably something that I feel like I take from people as something that will help you grow old gracefully.
And yeah, I realized you mentioned like 4 years ago, you said you kind of gradually change your perception about getting 40, right?
Yeah.
And that's the time your podcast started.
Yeah.
So is that like you find your passion point there? So I think that's kind of related. Yeah.
I think your passion can make you just be a lot more comfortable in who you are. Again, I'm trying really hard to have faith in the process of life and love, and when it's meant to be, it'll be. Yeah. And I think that all the people that I've had on that I feel like, you know, relate to the term ageless are all still doing things they're passionate about now, and they don't stop and they don't dwell on things that haven't happened.
Yeah.
They dwell on the things that do happen. And I think keeping active and healthy and wellness is really important. But I also think if I'm still doing this podcast when I'm 80, I'll be feeding my soul. So hopefully that will help me, you know, keep me ageless as well. So I think if you can find something that really feeds your passion in life, that will help you along the way.
Exactly, because this thing is no age limit, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And like we just discussed, the more experience you get, maybe the happier and also the better the result. Yeah,
definitely.
So now the current version of you, compare like when you were 20 years old, you imagine you're getting 40.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference and what is your takeout?
I mean, I would have thought that I was probably like married with 3 kids, like living a very family orientated life, probably still working in fashion, probably still at the British Fashion Council because I thought I'd never leave. And there's a part of me that is quite sad that some of that isn't, you know, part of my life now, but I never would have believed that I'd be as fulfilled as I am and I would have achieved as much as I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in doing everything I've done over the past like 20 years from when I was 20 to turning 40, I have so much more belief in myself and my confidence. And I think I'm just a lot more content with who I am and what I'm doing. And I think that's even from when I turned 30, that's where things are slightly different. You know, I'm 30 just felt so old to me, and it's really
the same,
not.
I think, for everyone.
Yeah. And I'm trying then, I think with turning 40 is not to think I'm really old. And I think the thing that we need to do is not dwell on the things we don't have when we turn a certain age, but think about the things that we do and what we have achieved. And that's not to say that I'm not sad that I'm not married at 40, but, I might be, you never know, I might get married in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really key thing is to focus on the things that you have achieved, because I think it's like being grateful. It's like doing a grateful journal every day. We can think we've had a really bad day, but actually when you think about the things that have happened that day and you reflect on the day, you can think of so many other things that happened that were great. And I think we just automatically sometimes focus on the negative or the thing that we don't have. I think it's just important to remember what we have achieved and what we do have.
That's beautiful. And when I look at your career, your path, I feel like there's a key word. It's about a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because for actually event is also creating moment.
Yeah.
Like you said, those big events, big night is creating moment. And sliding doors also is the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But when I think about moment, I think there are much more profound meaning, because moment is about being present. So that's like an ageless, I think,
Yeah.
perception. Like when we transcend the time or the age, it's all about the moment.
Yeah.
We live in the present.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
Yeah. So how's life? Like how's your daily like hobbies? Like keep your energy?
I'm not very good at stuff like that. I'm still kind of working through it. And because I'm newly consultant, it's kind of really hard at the moment to figure out, working from home and co-working and figuring out your daily schedule. But I try really hard to walk as much as I can, get out there.
Because we talk about like some practice, we keep our vibrant energy or keep us.
Oh yeah, I'm
grounded.
really bad at that, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm good at it. I need to be
That's
much
good.
better, but I need to be much better because I think routine is really important for us as humans. I think I've really learned that recently. I just need to be much better at having a routine. I think I always have the best intentions, but something always comes in the way, or I'm too tired, so I think sometimes having something booked in like every Wednesday, or like I love playing tennis, so now the weather's nicer, I want to play tennis more, but it's actually just booking it in and making sure that happens. But it's also just making sure that you're doing things all the time that, as you say, are feeding the passion that you have and the drive that you have. And I'm not the best at it all the time. A lot of the time I just sit in and watch Netflix. Really boring.
And that's perfect. And we evolve, right?
Exactly.
I remember like in one of your episodes, Gemma.
Yes.
Gemma, she mentioned like now she's like we used to love parties, everything, right?
Oh my
now
gosh.
we just wish we can leave earlier.
And I think it's just being
naturally
content with knowing that that's okay. It took me a long time to be like, I should be out tonight. I should be out. And now I'm like, well, you shouldn't. If you don't want to be out, you don't need to be out. And I think, yeah, you're right. It's just navigating life differently and figuring out what works best for you. But I do think you've got to put, what I'm not good at doing is putting time and effort into that. So I put a lot of time and effort into my job, into my podcast, but not often into kind of like things outside of that. So I think I need to be better at doing that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So what's the plan? I know you are a planning person, right?
Yes.
You have like just what's the plan for sliding doors?
Oh, what is the plan for sliding doors?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've only just got started. And I know that's an odd thing to say because it's been going for quite a while, but I feel like I'm only now just getting to the kind of start line. So I think for me, I just want to keep making content, keep doing some brilliant interviews with brilliant guests. And I want to grow the show. I want to try and do a few more mini series that are more focused on different things. I want to do more live shows because I love that. So yeah, I have like my big dreams, but ultimately at the moment, I just want to keep going. I think because it's such a saturated market, I want to just keep going and keep the momentum going. And I think I love public speaking. I do a lot of kind of sliding doors sessions, events. So I think for me, it's more just getting out there a lot more, building my sliding doors community more, and yeah, making some of my anything is possible dreams come true.
So the community is also about encourage your community member. Like, what's the key message for that?
I want to make sure that people that are interested in the theory and the topic of sliding doors get to talk to each other, and you can listen to an episode and think, oh my gosh, I heard that moment and it made me think about this moment in my life. And, I want those conversations to be sparked and people to get inspiration and be seeking adventure or be seeking love and hearing stories and feeling like, okay, well, I didn't think anything was possible, but they didn't think that either. And look what happened to them. So I think for me, it's making sure that I'd love to bring together my community of sliding doors listeners more together and make sure that they can kind of have that time to reflect together.
If you can write a letter to the 50 years old you, 10 years, almost 10 years, 12 years. Yeah. What are the three things? Maybe apart from the podcast, we talked a lot about the podcast.
I think I want to be content in my life. I think being content is really important. As you said, it's not sometimes about being the extremes of one or the other. It's about being content. I'd love to find love and kind of find someone to live my life with. And I guess I just want to be living a life that I want to live. I think as you say, I hear so many people complain about their job or complain about where they live or the weather. And if you're complaining so much about something, then do something to change it. And, not everything is easy for people to do. We have to earn money and we have to pay our mortgages and we've got kids and everything like that. But if something is really getting you down every single day, you can really think about what can you do differently. So I want to make sure that I'm living a life that I feel content in, and hopefully somewhere where it's warmer and it's sunny and I'm somewhere on a beach or
you
by
have
the
a
sea.
place, your dream place, like you want to be?
Oh, I've got so many. I love I'd love to go and live, on a vineyard somewhere, but then I'd also love to go and live by the sea in a remote island somewhere. So I really don't know, but I definitely want to live somewhere where the weather's warmer.
Yeah, so that's on your vision board.
That is on my vision board, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So write a letter to you. You were 20 years old. What are the 3 pieces of advice you give her?
Looking back from this perspective, I think it would be, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't judge yourself so much, and don't put so much of your confidence on what other people do or say or think, and have confidence to know that the feelings and thoughts that you have are valid. And just because everyone else isn't doing the same thing at the same time as you, that's okay. And also just to dream big and be excited about what's to come in life.
You're always a big dreamer.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the first time in my life that I haven't known what I want to do career-wise for my whole life. So I've always had dreams and aspirations of what I want to do. And now I'm learning a bit more what it's like to go with the flow.
That's brilliant. And for this year, do you have one bold move or something you want to achieve?
I think this year so I sometimes go on these solo traveler trips, which are amazing, where you get to basically travel to somewhere where you go with a group of people that you've never met before.
Yeah.
So I'd love to do another one of those trips because they feed my soul and I love them. And they're very scary because you don't know who you're going with and you're with them for 2 weeks, but you also come away just having such a brilliant, fresh perspective on life. And again, I think this year it's more about evaluating what really makes me happy. And do I want to stay in London? Do I want to go and live somewhere in a hotter climate or something? I think also I want to appreciate being in a content state. So I don't think this year is about big things and big changes. I think it's more about making sure that
a right routine, like you said.
Yeah, and I'm happy in the position that I'm in, and I can't sit and moan about stuff if I'm not going to take action to change it.
Yeah, and like you said, I think attract your energy area. Yeah. Find the things make you flow in the flow zone.
Exactly. Go with the flow more and have faith. I think that, again, that word keeps coming back to me, but it's just knowing that if you've put the hard work in to try and make something happen, you've got to sometimes let that go and then be like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And if it's meant to happen, it will. And just, I
think that's what we are doing. Before on the way here, I was thinking what we are doing. It's actually very interesting. We are like a big interconnection point. Like you are like a connection point. You connect 133 episodes now, right?
120.
120, okay. 120 stories are connected at this point. And it's actually projected and you create it and it's expanded into different version or message. It's really brilliant. And I think it's also what we're doing is like a nudge to the soul.
Yeah.
That's what I'm always thinking.
I love that.
Like you said, 5 audience, right? 5 people inspired. I think a lot of people also say even one person, they make some change. Because the message could be very, it looks like common sense, but someday, some person, they listen to it and they reflect their life experience. They make the change.
The ripple effect.
That's
have no idea.
That's all the ripple effect, like the sliding door flash moment. That's 100%, beautiful.
100%,
yeah. At the end, we have one question for every guest because we are women in the penthouse.
Yes.
So, before that, I think I still want to wrap it up. What is one, if you can give one advice for women who can live more fearlessly, limitlessly, if just top of mind, one most important advice?
I think it's trusting your gut. I think that it's a really hard thing to do because I think we get scared sometimes. And especially if you're in a room full of people that are saying that one thing is amazing, but in your gut, you know, it's not. I'm not saying stand up and say that you know, that you disagree with everybody, but don't change that gut feeling to suit a situation. So trust your gut when it comes to relationships, work, anything. You know, if something doesn't feel right to you or it does feel right, use that intuition that you have because it's so strong. And I think you can never, if you've always followed your gut, you can never have regrets because you've followed what's in your heart. So yeah, that would be my advice.
That's beautiful. And the last one is the Penthouse Rule.
Yes.
Because women in the penthouse, we want to redefine the penthouse life. Because penthouse is like a symbol of material, but we think it's more than the material thing, right? If we have a mindset, like you said, we follow our heart, we have love, compassion, especially for ourselves, then our mind could be our penthouse.
Yes.
So every guest will leave one penthouse rule to the audience. So what is your penthouse rule?
Always have faith in your journey. You know, whether it's good moments, bad moments. I think we only have one life. So I think we have to have faith that things will work out how they're meant to. And you will have times that things seem like such a struggle and so hard. But you've got to keep the faith and know that that will get better in order to then have the moments of joy and, you know, when your dreams can come true, because they can come true. So like, as we said before, just having faith and knowing that anything is possible.
Well, that's beautiful. I really looking forward to more exciting news from the Sliding Doors podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all the sharing. It's beautiful.
No, thank you so much. I've loved chatting all about everything, like all the Sliding Doors stuff, but also lovely podcast and brilliant chat. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Oh my God, hold on. Let me just get out of this thing. That was so good. Okay? Thank you so much.
Yeah. Until next time, keep rising, keep rewriting, and keep owning your penthouse moment. I will see you next time in Women in the Penthouse.